Hello everyone, and welcome back to Plantastics Research. I'm glad to see you all back this week, and I have a really important thing to share with you guys on today's lesson. So today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite type of scientific topics that we talk about in school, and I learned it a long time ago, and it's called the scientific method. And ever since I joined scientific research, which is the class that I take in high school, it's one of my main courses, I have obtained a lot of information on the different aspects of research and things like that. It was an explanation. And I know in our last video, last two previous videos, we've talked about data collection, which you'll hear a lot about in this today, and also how to present, which I did a video on that a few days ago as well. So both of these aspects are used in the scientific method, are both very important. And I'll explain today why the scientific method overall is extremely important. So let's get started in the standards, and this is actually a cut piece of some of the standards that we've been using recently, but I wanted to focus on specific aspects for today's video. And as always, we want you to be able to ask questions, to investigate and provide explanations, and there's that word explanation, and construct an explanation supported by evidence, which is very important as well. Evidence, we'll get into that in just a second. Of course, we have the word explanation, which we use a lot, and that is the ability to explain, and that's the simple way to put it, because explanation could be used in many different terms, and one of the more base ways to discuss an explanation is to say, this is the basic way of how I'm going to explain this to you. And finally, a method. And this is cut from the word scientific method, but I wanted to focus on what method is in itself, and that's procedure or process of doing something. And that is all said. And try to make key term definitions extremely simple so you get what they're talking about. So yes, let's move on. Used for a very long time. Actually, I did some research a few weeks ago on it. I was actually originally going to make this video, but I wanted to get a few more things out before I really talked about it, because I think this is one of the most important videos and discussions and topics that we've had so far. And the scientific method has been used in many different ways, and it's been used many different times and many different projects, many different worldwide experimentations. And it's really important that we follow the steps of the scientific method, so that way when we're conducting an experiment, we make sure that we're doing it not just correctly, but we're doing it in a way that's going to make for the best outcome. And also, it explains the steps to science and specifically the way to perform experimentation. So yes, this is a way that performing experimentation, it makes it a lot easier, because you're able to pinpoint and say, hey, I know that this is a point that I can use, and I know that this is a point that I can use as well. So it's very important to bring both of those together. So we're going to quickly go over what all the scientific method parts are, and that's to first make an observation, identify a problem, research your problem, develop your hypothesis, design an experiment, collect data and analyze your results, and construct a conclusion. And we're going to talk about every single last one of these. So, first things first. So I'm going to give us an example research, and I'm going an example type of research experiment, very simple, and I'm going to show you why it's going to, and how that specific experiment is going to pitch in every single last factor of the scientific method. So let's I want you to imagine that you are, let's say you are planting a plant, and you may say, well, how do plants grow? And let's say or you can look at the grass. That's you observing, which is what observation is. And as you can see, we have the little boy. He's looking at the butterfly. He's observing the behavior of the butterfly. And he's observing the things around it, the surroundings and things like that. He's getting a close look, so that way he's able to pinpoint what exactly is happening. So let's say that you go outside and you're looking at the grass. You're observing just by doing something simple. So what is it? The ability to observe or have an observation is to look closely at things. And how is it used? It's used up closely. Sometimes you look at it from a distance. Sometimes you do that. And why is it important? It's because you want to meet all the factors that are you want to get everything that you can see and really look closely into what you're observing. A raise in something that you may have a loss for information for, something that you may be unaware of, and you're trying to figure out, as most problems need a conclusion or a solution, which we will get to soon. You're trying to figure out the solution of the problem, of the quote-unquote problem, and you're presented with things to help you with that. So what is it? It's basically the situation or what you just observed. It's basically, now how am I going to fit this into something else? How does it work? And why is it important? And I think the problem is very important because you want to make sure that you know exactly what you're pinpointing. And sometimes that'll raise a claim, and I'll talk about a claim in another video. Next, we have our research. Now that you have the problem in your head, now that you have the problem after your observation, you will now do research. So let's say that you are curious of how plants grow, and you look online and you see a lot of pictures of plants and different things, and you see a lot of big words and things like photosynthesis, which we've talked about before, and things like that, and you're curious on how that actually works. So you do research on it, and when you get research, well, first off, what is research? Research would be the ability for you to go and seek knowledge. And how is it used? You will go and you will try to gather as much information as you can. And it's important to research because you'll learn a lot of information. But let me tell you now I'm going to move on to one of the most important factors of why researching is extremely important. And that would be to hypothesize. Hypothesis is our next section, and one of the most important. And I have a visual presentation of how the hypothesis would actually work. You have a lot of different ideas that are going many different ways. So what is the hypothesis? As we explained before, the hypothesis is the ideal. It's the theory that you're trying. It's the question that you're asking. Why is it this way? Or what is happening? Or if this happens, if is a very important word, and I'll get into in another video, probably my next video, I'm going to explain a lot of why things. I'm going to use the word why a lot. And why, if this happens, then so a lot of transitions for science, scientific transitions and things like that. So hypothesis would be it's where you're brainstorming. You're basically asking, if this happens, then why does this happen? And why does the chain reaction occur? So I think the hypothesis is really important because it'll give you an idea of what your overall thoughts of experimentation is. Now, of course, you have your experiment. Your experiment is you're putting on your ideals and things and your observations and your research into action. And your experiment would be you planting the plant, or you getting a small seed and you're planting it in the soil, and you're getting the water and all of this and the materials that are needed for the experiment to happen. And it's very important. And what is it? Well, an experiment is a conducted way of looking at something in a physical manner. You physically do it, and you physically make, sometimes if it's safe, of course, and you use it to better your understanding of how it works up closely. And it's really important for that matter. Second, one of my favorite, we have to record data. Now, I did an entire video. I really like that video on recording data and why recording data is probably one of the most important things. And all the time, everyone doesn't really record data. I think we stop at the experiment part, and I think we jump to the conclusion, not literally, but like we jump to straight from the experiment. It's gotten where it needs to be, and then we say, this is what happened, that's it. But there's no actual collection of data sometimes. And I feel like data collection is extremely important. So what is it? Well, data, of course, is the recorded, sometimes numbers, words or things, or description. Yes, description is a good word of what is actually happening. And data can be used to show evidence of how something works. And sometimes you can record many different sections of data and how it works differently, and comparing and how data being compared. I remember talking about that and how comparing data can be used to to say this is what happens or this is why this happens, and that's what the importance of data really is. And I actually going to open the spreadsheet that we recently talked about that we used in the previous video of the plants, and how this, if we kept the data, we're able to see the progress and the ability to continue and the continuation of all the things that we had during the experiment. So we wouldn't just be like, oh, well, you know, this happened on this day. We would actually be able to record it as it's happening, and that's really important. Happened now, and why is what happened important, and how is it useful? And that is a question that everyone should ask themselves in before and after they do an experiment. How would this be beneficial? And that's one of the hardest things, because I try to sometimes say, well, I could do this experiment, but is it going to be beneficial to anything? Or what is the outcome, and how important is it going to be? And I feel like that is a question that everyone should ask. So I definitely encourage a lot of people. I definitely encourage a lot of people to, when they get to the conclusion, now that you have your thing and now that you have your data, because like I said, a lot of times data is not collected. So I feel like now you want to collect your data, and I'm encouraging you guys, if you ever do an experiment, even if it's small, and also do not be afraid for data to be nothing, like zero. It's okay, because it's data, it's the recording and it's the presentation. You don't want to kind of, not say make up, but you don't want to make it look like your date you have nothing recorded, because I've been through that a lot, and I think that it's very important to keep track of what your data is. So I hope everyone enjoyed the lesson today, and I'm really happy to share this with you. It was one of my favorites, and I hope everyone has a good day, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.